I'll talk for just a second while they're getting this together. I wrote a book 2 years ago. It's channeled. I've been channeling since I was about 4 or 5 years old. Only at that stage of life, I didn't know that's what it was called. I just was having conversation. And I started out, one of the conversations I remember, who I was conversing with was Sananda. Anybody familiar with Sananda Jesus? We know him as Jesus. But his name, he is known as Sananda amongst the other interdimensionals. And I just had a conversation, and I said, bring me home. I want to be here. My father, okay? I feel like the stork dropped me in the wrong place. I didn't feel like I belonged here. I was different than everybody else in my household. Who feels that way or has felt that way? Okay, so I'm talking to the crowd that understands, all right? So I had to learn how to make my way in the world and in my family. And that wasn't an easy thing to do. In fact, they probably still think I'm a weirdo, but that's okay. Weirdo in a good way, right? So at that stage of life, I began to learn how to channel, but I didn't know that that's what it was called. And then as I grew older, I would learn that I could hear other people talking. Like, who are these people? So I had to really understand and learn this. And at the same time, I would be able to put my hands on something and hear something that it was communicating. So a rock, or a tree, or a person, or anything, because everything is electromagnetic frequency. It has a frequency. It has a code. That's what a frequency is, a code. So if I coded you 1, 2, 3, 4, you'd all have a unique code. We all do. Everything does. Like this has it, I have it, this has it, an apple, whatever, my water. And so I began to realize that things were talking to me. It was sending me visual pictures. It was communicating. I would get a visceral experience in my body, hot or cold, chills. Many of you get goosebumps or chills. But it was communicating. And this is how I began to understand that there was a reason this was happening to me. And then I realized that I needed to be able to learn how to use this. And so more and more they began to share with me, well, this is why you're here and why you couldn't go home at 4 or 5. Because the answer that I was told when I wanted to go home, I call it home, where I originated from, is because that I had a mission, like we all do. We're all supposed to be here for a reason. Who knows the reason you are here? How many? Okay. Getting there? They're beginning to understand it? That's great. That's great. And some still have no idea, right? How many don't really know why you're here on Earth? Okay. So I will tell you, and I'm kind of jumping around while I'm waiting for them. Some are just here to hold the vibration. And you might think, oh, that's kind of a menial task. I thought maybe I had something more important to do. That is as important as anything else. Because without the light and holding the vibration, the energy, we cannot ascend into the higher frequency. We need the masses to be able to do this. And that is now. This is why so many are waking up at this time in a collective manner. There are some of us that have been awake for a long time. I've been awake since I can remember being alive almost, right? But some of us have come on and we've had to learn certain things in our lives. And that's part of our mission, is understanding this so that you can do, at some point in your life, you do an about face and say, well, I don't want that junk anymore, so now what do I do with it? So now you have to find your way through it, navigate, so that you can let go of it, okay? So today, I'm here talking about the interdimensionals, the intergalactics, the star beings, the ascended masters, the light beings, the angelics, all have different information to share. So there's a unity of information, but there is each individual brings their own information, just like you are different, you are different, you are different. Within these beings, okay, they're all different. They carry their unique essence. They're what we would consider like the thumbprint, right? They're all very different. And so they all have something to share. And honestly, I can tell you, sometimes they're all kind of clamoring, trying to get their little information in. It's like, I can't write fast enough, you know? Because I write everything that I possibly can. I love to go back and hear a year ago, what did they tell me? I remember it was about something like this, but I want to remember in their words. And when I say in their words, it's super important to be in their words because they bring out a word that would not be my usual vocabulary. And then I have to, it's the job for me to kind of understand that because there may be several meanings in it pertaining to the way they're expressing it to me. So right now, this is about reclaiming our future, our now, where we're going and what it's really about. And what's most important is not connecting with the guides and the masters and everyone that's out there talking, okay? What's most important, they tell me, is that to connect with your higher self. Who here knows what your higher self is and has connected with you? Okay, good. I like you, George. All right, the higher self is you that remains in spirit form all the time and is connected to all of consciousness. So imagine all the galactic, all the cosmos, all the universes, everything, okay? Everything. You are connected to all of that, all right? You may not hear it all at once, but you are connected to it. But there's a part of you that has decided to come into a physical form to do whatever you've come to do. But this part needs to remain in spirit form. This is your higher self. And when you get the goosebumps or you get that hit, that aha moment, whatever you call it, it's coming down and it's channeling, as we're all channelers, into you. Your job as the human being and the dense matter is to listen to what it says. So who here has heard something and decided not to listen? Raise your hand. Yeah, me too. All right? Yeah, go left. Oh, and I decide to go right. Oops, you know? Right? But it's important. I'll give you a really quick story on this. My brother, a couple years ago, 9/11, all right, he was a stockbroker on Wall Street. He went out and played cards the night before, got a little, you know, and decided to hit the snooze button, all right? Just in his half-awake moment, hit the snooze button. Thank God. Exactly right, because he missed the bus. Thank God he missed the bus. I get chills every time I think it, okay? Because he wouldn't be here any longer. He wasn't meant to, and so the higher guidance, but he listened. Even when he was half asleep, he listened. That's how important it is to listen, you know? It could be your life, really. I was just in Hawaii for a few weeks, just a couple days ago. You know, and I'm snorkeling, and I love to snorkel because it's like, it's so quiet and peaceful under the water, right? Moving with the turtles, nice and easy. Watch where you step because there are sea urchins and you do not want to step on a sea urchin. And I almost did. Something in me said, don't put your foot back. Because had I would have stepped on them. And they're very prickly, they're black with all these points. And if you do, you have to get out of the water and pee on yourself. And I just wasn't in the mood to do that. You know? So it's painful. So it's about being here now and being present. How do they communicate? And what do they want us to know? So there is, well, we've talked a little bit about how they communicate. They come through the higher self so that that is what is connected to you. So they're speaking through this sort of, what I would say, go-between, okay? Because your higher self is accumulating and hearing all the information, okay? So they come through your higher self, they connect through that way. That's one way, all right? And But there are other ways they do. But this is what is important right now, that we connect to our higher self, because that's going to give you the access, and I explained why. They are sending vibrations and codes at this point. How many know they're doing this right now? Okay, how are they doing it? Anybody know how they're sending the codes to us?
It's encrypted, haven't figured it out yet.
No, that's not true.
Sound frequency?
Sound is one, yes. There's many different ways, but sound is definitely one. Light also, okay? So when we think of light, we think of a light that goes on, we think of the sun as light also. But there is light that comes into us. We are light, right? We're all light. This is just the physical body, but that's what we really are. We're light, and they're communicating through the light. So they communicate through, like you said, sound, channeling, our higher self, symbols also. Sacred geometric symbols, binary symbols, the light, their written language, and I don't have a picture with me, but they send to me different shapes and language, and it doesn't look like our language, ABCD, it's their language. And I had an experience up on Blind Frog Ranch. Who's familiar with Blind Frog Ranch? Good, super good. You've seen the Discovery Channel. All right. Well, Dwayne Ollinger happens to be like family. We're good friends. And one of the times we were up there, we were doing a shamanic journey up there. And we all kind of dispersed. And I went to sit up on the top of the hill for a while, just to kind of, get myself together. And I was toning. Now, toning is sound also, but it's not a sound that says anything. It's just a tone. Who here tones? Oh, good. I love it. So I'm up there toning, and what shows up, I would say from here to where the chair is there, okay? This little goldish-looking type being showed up about 3.5 feet. I wasn't expecting it, didn't call him in, nothing. I was just sitting toning, and it showed up. It was coming from the tones that I was bringing. And he came up to me, and it must have heard what I said or what I was thinking. I wasn't really aware of what I was thinking at the moment, but I was a little taken back, not too much. And it answered me, and it said, "We're as curious about you as you are about us." And I thought, how do you like that? I wouldn't have ever thought of that, that you're as curious. So that opened up a whole communication in a picture to tell me, they were telling me, that they are here sort of observing what we're doing with everything. They're checking out to see how we're going to handle things. So in the case of like 9/11 or some disaster like the Boston Marathon disaster bombings and things like that, what really happens, it's not the happening that matters as much as what you do about it. That's what they're checking out. So for a while, I'm not going to exactly tell you the date because I don't really know that, okay? But what they were doing for a while, they were waiting to see what we as humanity were going to be able to do. Because that was going to tell them, are we ready to move forward in our existence, or are we just going to kind of lag behind? And that was about opening our heart. So in disasters, whether they be your personal disaster or a collective, that's exactly part of the reason these exist. And we call God not interfering, because it is wow. Thank you. I'll be very careful. Because it's about finding out what we're going to do. Where's our heart? Are we going to be able to come through our heart? Can we be compassionate? Can we be kind in a situation? What about the homeless person on the side of the street? Do we sit in judgment of that human being? Do we walk on by? Do we offer something? Can we smile? A smile is an offering. Thank you very much. So, it's about what we're going to do with something. So they've decided, we've passed the test, so to speak, and we can walk through into moving toward the next dimension, right? But how are we going to do that? What's that all going to really look like in humanity? Are we going to beat each other up before we get there? I mean, what's that really going to look like, So they're waiting to see, always in observance, what we're really doing about all of it. So it's up to us. When we sit in judgment of those that are in politics or have, these higher seats that are controlling the globe and that, and we sit and we complain about them, or we say they're evil, or we say whatever we're saying in judgment, right? Don't forget, words are energy, and we're putting energy out into the big collective pot, okay? We're creating our own reality at that very moment. We, as a collective consciousness, have literally created what's going on, and that may be a hard nut to swallow. But that's a fact. It's the fact. We are creating our reality right now, the negative and the positive, and it's up to us to create. Who was it, Gandhi said? Create the world that you want to see, to be, to happen. So this is a fact. This is what I hear from them. It is up to you. It's not up to them. They're not making that decision. They don't really have a hand in it. It's up to us as humanity. Are you going to walk into being conscious enough to open your heart to care, to be kind, to bring that into the world? Like I said, I was just in Hawaii. Hawaiian people go back to the beginning of time. And I studied the work of Hale Nakua, which is one of the last shamanic elders of Polynesian Hawaiian culture. And he has written information right from the beginning, talks about when the Polynesians were seeded in this world. And he says, aloha, which is the breath of life, is what will bring humanity into the direction that we want to go. So these indigenous cultures, they kind of know, they have this ancient wisdom. They all are very similar in what they have to say. There's this unity of understanding amongst them that helps us to listen to them because they have the knowledge and wisdom to help us move forward. And that's one of the things I learned when I studied with indigenous people and learned about shamanism. And then I get a lot of shamans in my journey work. They come and they share a lot of information. And I'll share one thing with you. Probably the most profound thing I have heard anyone ever, anywhere say to me. So I'm in this journey, had this little bit of fear about something, so I'm in what I call my sacred garden. And I think, well, if I'm going to invite a master to come in and share this space with me and bring me some information, I'm going to build a bench, okay? So I have my little bench, I'm sitting on my bench in my journey, in my sacred garden, and I invite in that which is of a high vibration to bring me wisdom and knowledge about this particular fear I have, right? And what happens? In pops this little Asian man with the 5-corner hat, the braided beard down to here, right, in his little black robe, right? He comes in, very profound, full of wisdom, because that was the indication I felt, right? And he says to me, move the bench. How do you like that, right? Move the bench. So that was probably about 19 years ago, that journey. Those 3 words from that master still resound in my ear, the most profound thing. Because if you stop and think about it, everything is about perspective. If I stand here, I can see here, okay, maybe there, a little bit there. I can't see what's behind me. If I stand like this, I can't see that, but I can see that, right? So It's a matter of where you stand. It's a matter of your perspective. But that's really what it is. It's about perspective. It's how you see something. So I'll just give you a little skinning. What he was actually referring to in the fear is, it's how you're looking at something. It's how you're viewing it. So if you view it different, instead of the way it was and set up at the moment, if you stand and look at it from a different direction, you may see it in a different way, okay? I have stories to back that up that I could spend hours sharing with you, really. I mean, and it would blow your mind, because it blows my mind. I'm always in awe of the way the universe shares information. And that includes the interdimensionals and all those beings that speak.
Did you move the bench?
Pardon?
Did you move the bench?
I still continue to move the bench. When I'm stuck, right? When I'm stuck, I realize that I have to adjust the way I'm looking at something in order to see it different, in order to get change. We can't keep doing things the same way, right? We're in a time right now where we realize we cannot keep doing things the same way, and they know that. And they are trying to bring the wisdom to us. We have to listen to what they have to say. Now, I realize not everybody has the capacity to hear the interdimensionals, and so this is important, why they speak through certain people. And you might ask, well, why do they choose certain people? The reason for that is it has to do with frequency. So when you enter into a certain frequency, let me see how I can explain. When you enter into a certain frequency, other frequencies sort of move either aside, fall away, disengage, whatever. And so you're now in this frequency. And this oftentimes has to do with where your brain waves are. I know this from doing hypnotic work. When I walk somebody in through a trance into the deeper frequencies, that's where they can have access to us. Reason being is because now the mind chatter, the blah, 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 the egocentric part of ourselves, okay, quiets down, because it's always in there saying, well, why this, and is that real, and all that stuff that sabotages us, right? It kind of can move aside, and now we can just hear this, and that's why so many of us meditate. We want to quiet that so that we can actually hear what they have to say. And then when we're in that place, there's a lot of places we can go and access. And tomorrow I'm doing a workshop on helping everybody experience what it's like to be in 5D. So if you've never gone to 5D, that's what we're going to do tomorrow, okay? And we're going to go through an Arcturian's eyes to see what is it like to be in a higher dimensional frequency like that. Many of the ancients, they're full of wisdom. I know the Peruvians, the Mayans, I've been throughout Mexico, South America, and all of that. I lived in Mexico. Many of them, when they're doing their world, living in their world, they're singing. The Australians, they sing it to them. When they're planting, whatever they're doing, they're singing. That's a high vibrational energy, And this is about speaking in this language of higher energy, of this frequency, of bringing light in. What you eat brings light in, or does it bring light in? If you're eating raw food, it has more light than food you've cooked in the frying pan, right? We have people that we can surround ourselves with that are either of a higher light or less light, okay? So when you're amongst that feeling. And what they say is, put yourself in a position where you're not around that, because that lowers your frequency. When you lower your frequency, you open yourself up for illness, because your cells, your body communicates with each other also. And so you might not hear that language, but it's going on. And if you lower it enough, you then set up fertile ground for illness to begin to happen. And then, of course, clogged pathways and energy ways and that, and then you get sick. So we want to stay in that higher frequency. So I want to share with you what one of the beings has said to me, and I'm going to share a few things with you. Okay, the quantum field of oneness is the base energy of the universe and beyond. It's an energetic of pure consciousness, and it's no thing. It's beyond all the realms and dimensions and all realms that exist within the quantum field. The field is within all the realms, and there is no separation. It has many names. We call it many names. But it's simply called the field, and sometimes we call it maybe a vortex or such. It's called the still point or the 0 point. But whatever the name is, the void of pure potential is what we're talking about. It's where all creation happens, and the indigenous people know it. They go into the dark, into the void, and that's where they say is more real than this where we're living today. So it's the pure potential of the Spirit of God. And so that's where, when you want to create the world, that's where you need to go, and they help us go there. So I've worked with many benevolent beings, angels, light beings, masters, star beings. I've worked with the dolphins. Let me tell you what the dolphins are. The dolphins and the whales. The whales are the secret keepers, and the dolphins are the ones that bring the breath of life to us. So why do you think so many people want to swim with the dolphins? Because we know somewhere intrinsically that they carry information and we want to be with them. We actually had an opportunity to swim with a pod right after, no more than moments after a baby was born, and we were swimming through the bubbles. That's sacred. It's very special to have that opportunity. I worked with the dolphins. I held them in my hands with people, and they communicated their energy to people for healing. They stayed behind, okay? They were seated here, and they decided to stay behind to help mankind. And now we want to get in the water and just be with these beings. But they are truly very important beings that are here that you and I can talk to and see and be and have that experience and listen to those clicks and whistles and the groaning, moaning sounds of the whales. So when you want to connect with something and you don't know where to go, listen, put on something like that, because they are communicating. They're an actual visual being that has chosen that to stay behind, to speak with us. I was at the doorway in Peru, at the doorway called Aramu.
Battery is low.
Outside.
Whoa.
So funny. Aramu, Peru. Anybody been there? So when I got there are 3 entrances, okay? This is a portal in Peru. So the first one I stood in, you're supposed to stand into it's sort of a curved out area. You get yourself connected into the energy there. Then you move to the other one on the other side, and I could feel myself dematerialize. Anybody watch Star Trek?
Yeah.
And Beam Me Up, Scotty? Okay, the dematerialization, well, that's a real thing. I'm not kidding, that's not just Hollywood. That's exactly what you begin to feel. You're dematerializing. Your matter is changing frequency, okay? And it kind of startled me because I never had that happen before. It was a new experience. So then I stepped out of that, right? And I went into the middle doorway. And I stood there, and there was a spot where you have to put your third eye. And when I did that, I opened the portal. And what was through the portal were 3 light beings. And they were in front of me. And they asked me if I would like to go with them. I had to think for a moment. I don't know, stay on Earth, go with them, I'm not sure, mothership, I don't know. Anyway, so I had to figure out in a moment's time. I said, it may be another time. I think right now I still have things I want to do here, work to do, mission to accomplish. But it was a nice opportunity to be asked. So there are portals and energy here, vortexes, that can offer those opportunities to connect with them. So I wanted to bring some information about what they have to say. So I'm going to read it because each one says it differently. It So this is the Arcturian Council, and they always address, we are pleased to be with you. We have sent and awakened many star seeds at this time to open humanity to enlightenment. Everything is experienced as energy patterns, and you are learning to communicate with these patterns. There is intrinsic coding opening your third eye to receive the higher awareness. And DNA is comprised of tiny molecules, atoms, subatoms that make up your entire history. We plant the seed, meaning the Arcturians. We bring thoughts to you in a very subtle way, and then we watch you come into this, whether you accept it or not. When you have reached a certain point of acceptance, we plant another. Your DNA is like the fertile ground to take hold and grow. Okay, so that's a little bit about what they have to say. Their perspective is humanity can hold their vibrations a bit longer when we move in, like you meditate and you feel like your frequency is raising a little bit, you're not where you were for that moment. And they're saying that humanity actually can hold their vibrations longer now than they used to be able to. So that's a really good sign for all of us. And we're turning around our traumas, our tragedies, and our frustrations. And this is what's going to create a new 5D. We're beginning to find each other. So coming to a conference or an expo like this is how we're finding each other. So many people today are needing their tribe, so to speak, right? You hear this all the time. I need to find my tribe. Thank you so much. Because we've been alone for a long time, and that's a design also, being alone. What it does, the things that happen in our world, there's a design behind this. We've designed it so that it pushes us forward. Because when something isn't good in our life or we don't like it, what does it do? You're either going to sit around and become a couch potato, okay? Or it's going to push you into something. It's good. When you don't have a job, you have no money coming in, right? What's it going to do? It's going to move you, motivate you. This is the design of humanity. We need this. We designed this into ourselves. So when we say there are obstacles, those obstacles are in the design of our blueprint. When we contract to come in as a human being on Earth, we want obstacles, believe it or not, right? So that we can move forward. It's in the design. I work with someone called a consciousness called Megalithicon. It is a part of the emissaries of light. Whether you're familiar or not, I don't know. This is how it addresses. Hello, dear one. It is always our pleasure to be with you, to work with you, and we hold you in high honor. I'm going to tell you just that alone when they speak. What it does is it connects to the heart. So if we stop and allow them to connect with us, it automatically raises your frequency. You're in a love connection, okay? All right. And they tell me, allow it to be. Don't fight or resist your pain. Intend that you want it different. But when we fight against something, you can feel it. You're fighting. You try to move the wall. You're fighting. You're trying to move it, right? Don't resist. Allow it to be. But intend. Your intention is what drives it. Intend that you want it different. It's like walking down the steps till you reach the bottom and are ready. And there is nowhere else to go but up, right? Okay, that's kindergarten. But when you get to the bottom of the stairs, where else are you going to go, right? So we've gotten to the bottom of things from time to time in our lives. Where else do you go? Well, it's going to make you, drive you to move upward, right? Each step is a meaning or a phrase in your pain. And then when you reach the bottom, you reverse it, and each is a positive feeling or phrase moving upwards. There's two sides of the coin, you being the coin. So back in March of 2020, I channeled one day. I channel most days, and it says to me, this was about COVID, and it said, it is troublesome to know how much this has taken over the people. It will affect many, and it will be like this for a long while. It will incite fear, which will in turn create havoc over the nations and the world as is beginning now. Prepare for it because it becomes worse as it will take you by storm. There will be a cleansing, but it will go through all the nations and it will change your living standards. So I asked, what is the cleaning and clearing for? And it's to remind those that have to learn. It brings people together to help each other, to create unity of all and not division. This will help teach others to cope and heal their wounds and stick together to grow. You must help one another through these times. You will benefit from it all. And that's hard to look at COVID or whatever and say, I'm going to benefit. But if you're in a part where it's very difficult right now, you will benefit. You must keep that positive frame and move forward in it. So I asked, what's in our near future? Now, this is 2020. And I think this is important. I want to share this with you. It is a big wave of energy causing a rippling like a tidal wave. It will affect the economics of the earth and all should be prepared. It will hit hard and you must be secured. Be warned, it will affect the banks. Have your money in order. Don't wait to release this information, they tell me. Act on this now. This is a warning. Now, in all the years that I have channeled and all the beings, they have never spoken to me. This is a warning. 3 times in this message this day, Megalithicon said to me, be warned of this because globally you are getting hit with the tidal wave, okay? And all will be affected, a shutdown of sorts. And then what I saw in my image was of Wall Street, and I knew that's the big, money exchange, okay? And where it's traded, and it will change the landscaping of humanity. The industries will be adjusting from now into the future, and this will affect the stock market. Countries will shift their markets and resources will change. Our reliance on these markets will adjust. Monies will take a dive and it will cause a rumble and we will come out of it, but it will change our lifestyles. And this is for the better. This is a leveling process. The Federal Reserve will then plummet. Monies will change. A new will be implemented. And this will level things out and balance. This will take place over time in order to achieve what is desired. Money has created greed, and this will clear many problems at this time. We are waiting to know and hear what is created through this. Be warned.
Did you channel this one?
This was in 2020. I got to tell you, that's only like 1/4 of what I came with today. I'm going to tell you, they're giving me a 5-minute warning, okay? I'm going to tell you tomorrow. I'm doing a workshop. The workshop, it's an hour and a half. I'm not going to do a lot of talking because I want it to be experiential for everyone. I'm going to take you into 5D. So if you've never been, this is going to be an experience. And I'm going to take you behind an Arcturian's eyes so you can see. You can ask questions. You can do whatever you want behind those eyes. And I'm going to lead you into that, okay? So if you have a desire to have that experience, come tomorrow at 2 o'clock because I'd love to share that with you. So, as I want to wrap this up, okay, I want to share with you, I've written this book. If you're interested, it's got all kinds of information in it. Everything from this to this to this, from where it all began, kind of, right up to working with extraterrestrials, the Greys, all many different aspects out there. And people that I've worked with, as I do past life, between life and future life, soul regression, so I've learned a lot through those experiences, through people, through my channeling, through light codes. I'm going to speak a little light language tomorrow also, and this is going to activate some more DNA, bring in some more light, and if you've never experienced it, it's quite an experience. Any questions? Go ahead.
So with this, what you just read us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like that is through, or where are we in that process from your perspective?
We're in the process, because that came in March of 2020. before COVID or anything was really known. So they always give me well in advance information. I love that. They've been doing that forever. It's sort of like a preparatory, right? And then, you know, COVID was discovered and so on and so forth and everything that's come as a result. But that's only one section of what is to come. So we're in like a 2.5 year stint of time, and then there's going to be another 2 years after that. So there's something still coming, big heightened thing gonna happen. They don't always tell you everything though, exactly what it is. Otherwise, why would I need to be here to experience, right? It's about going through it,
Free
right?
will and,
Yeah, and then so I just am warned that there is something still coming, a peak, and then there's another peak. So, and I'm getting more information about that. And for me, what's really important is, is how to manage and maneuver through it. That's what's most important right now. Because, you know, if you're in control or you're concerned about your life, it's about how to navigate that, because you can't worry about every, you know, you're driving a car, oh, suddenly you hit a rock. You have to know what to do as you're moving through life. That's the connection that's very important right now. Yep, I'm at booth 505. If you have any questions, you want to talk more, come down and see me. Yeah, and there was one other question somewhere. No?
I have a question.
Yes.
Does it ever mention anything about the side effects of the vaccine?
Do they ever talk about the side effects of vaccine? Yes, yeah. Well, actually, see, I'm a homeopath, okay, so I work in energy medicine, but they do talk to me also about that, so we can have a further conversation. They do say there are ways to work with it. I've had COVID several times. The last time I had it now was a few months ago. I was in the hospital, and the doctors actually told me it didn't look very good for me. I might not make it. I said, really? Okay, so you don't know me. I'm going to be out of here in 5 days. And they just laughed. They said, no, you've got weeks in here. I said, no, 5 days and I will be out. I was out in 5 days, okay? And better than ever. And when I checked in with them and asked, what was the purpose? And I know there's purpose, but I wanted to understand the spiritual purpose of it. It's unique to each person, so I can't access that information just for you. Yes.
I don't know if anyone accidentally bumped the lights, but did they tell you why they did the lights?
No.
No.
Oh, did they tell me? I don't ask everything. I just kind of, okay, good. Thanks, I trust it. Any other questions? If you have anything you want to talk about or you want to learn more, come on down to 505. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Thank you.